Work takes up most of your time. That's why you should use Stamps.com to save time with your mailing and shipping. Stamps.com will simplify your postage needs and add valuable time back into your workday, so you have flexibility to focus on more important things. Stamps.com can handle your mailing and shipping needs with rates up to 88% off UPS and USPS. Send invoices, checks, certified mail, packages, and anything else you need to keep your business running with Stamps.com. If you sell online, connecting with every major marketplace and shopping cart is easy. Plus, you can schedule package pickups through their dashboard and automatically see your cheapest and fastest shipping options from different carriers with Stamps.com's Rate Advisor. Add more flexibility to your workday with Stamps.com. Go to Stamps.com/program to sign up for a special offer. No contract, cancel anytime. That's Stamps.com/program.
Jennifer Harris disappeared from Bonham, Texas on Mother's Day 2002. The secrets in the Jennifer Harris case have been hidden for 20 years.
When someone disappears, you have to look at who would benefit from their disappearance.
What happened to Jennifer Harris, and who is responsible for her death? Coming May 10th, Final Days on Earth, Season 2, The Life and Death of Jennifer Harris. Available wherever you get your podcasts.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 263 of the True Crime All the Time Unsolved podcast. I'm Mike Ferguson, and with me, as always, is my partner in true crime, Mike Gibby Gibson. What is going on?
Hey, man, I'm doing good. How you doing?
I'm doing great.
Yeah? You look great.
Well, I'm wearing a True Crime All the Time Dickie shirt, which I love.
I know you love those.
You know, I feel like I could work on a car, although I don't know how to work on cars, but just by wearing the Dickie shirt, it's kind of like staying at a Holiday Inn Express. I feel like I could do it.
Yeah, I'd stay away from the car too. But you look the role.
I look the part. Let's go ahead and give our Patreon shout outs. We had Paige Team Gibby Smith.
What's going on, Paige Team Gibby?
Jalil Rahab.
Well, thank you, Jalil.
Yvonne E.
Hey, Yvonne.
John Hutt.
What's going on, Hutt?
Vanessa DeGrazio.
Hey, DeGrazio.
Muriel Placid Kouassi.
Well, thank you, Marielle.
Megan McPeak.
Well, thanks, Megan.
Megan Hill.
What's up, Hill?
Brittany Hansen.
Hey, Hansen.
Rebecca Southwell.
Well, thank you, Rebecca.
Elise Leardem Ganson.
Well, thanks, Elise.
Jill Sutter.
What's going on, Sutter?
Siuna Ibrahim.
Hey, Ibrahim.
Mr. Meebles.
There's Meebles.
Valerie Elsawi.
Hey, Elsawi.
And Sophia Obergon.
Well, thank you, Obergon.
So we appreciate that new Patreon support. And then if we go back into the vault, Gibbs, this week we selected John Moore.
Hey, John, appreciate that.
Yeah, appreciate that long-term support. We had great PayPal donations from Kaylin Landry.
Well, thank you, Kaylin.
Daisy Simmental.
What's up, Daisy?
And Amy Nell.
Hey, Amy.
So thanks to everyone. Gibbs, right now on True Crime All the Time, we have an episode out on Trayvon Baskerville. There's a lot going on here. We're headed to Detroit to talk about a young man convicted of murder and sex trafficking. Basically, he murdered a beloved local chef who people called Chef Doug.
Yeah, it was a really good episode.
Yeah, so it's out now. Check that out. All right, buddy, are you ready to get into this episode of True Crime All the Time Unsolved?
Let's dive in.
We're talking about the Lady of the Dunes, and it's one of the oldest cases in Massachusetts state history. A woman's mutilated body was found on July 26, 1974, at the Race Point Dunes in Provincetown, Massachusetts. It's been almost 48 years, and the police have no real clues to identify the woman or her killer.
1974, is that when you were born?
Close.
In the ballpark.
In the ballpark. The Lady of the Dunes was found by a 13-year-old named Leslie Metcalf. She was out walking some dogs when she found the body. According to Leslie's younger sister, Alyssa, her family spent the day with friends at the Seascape Dune Shack in Provincetown. They decided to hike back to the Provinceland's visitor center. The dogs were following them when one of them caught a scent. The dog began barking and then ran off. Leslie followed the dog and found the body in a grove of trees. But Leslie first thought the body was a deer because of the woman's tan skin. Then she noticed that it was a body and that it had no hands.
What a discovery to make as a 13-year-old.
Well, I'm 48, and I think this would give me nightmares, so I can only imagine what this would do to a 13-year-old, both at the time of the discovery, like right then and there,
Right.
and then for years later.
Oh, sure. Nightmare City, I would think.
Exactly. The group ran back to the Dune Shack to find some help and use the phone. Someone in Leslie's group also drove off to find a park ranger to bring them to the scene. Now, Leslie died in 1996, but her sister Alyssa told the Telegram in 2019, it's kind of always stayed with the family. There's this, I don't know, do you call it a kinship with the case?
I definitely think it's probably something that would stick with the family and a talking point, an ongoing conversation. Remember that time we found that body? You know, the case is still unsolved.
Well, the first thing that jumped out at me was that Leslie Metcalf died at a fairly young age. And she was only about, 35 years old?
Yeah.
When she died. But I thought the use of the word kinship was something that I don't know that I've ever heard before, but I get it. You're a part of this case in a way. You're involved. It's probably part of you. I would think a lot of us will, research a case. Maybe we have a favorite case, Zodiac, Golden State Killer, Ted Bundy, whatever it might be. I think with a case like this, because your family was involved,
Yeah.
and I say that not in a bad way, you're going to keep a close eye on it throughout the years because it is in some way with you.
Yeah. It's now part of your life.
Yeah, or history.
History.
The woman's body was found about 1 mile east of the Race Point Ranger Station in a grove of scrub pines near the beach, just a few dozen feet from the sand roads that people drive on to get to the beach. She was found lying face down with half her body on a light green cotton beach blanket. The position of the body made it seem like she was sharing the towel with a friend. She was found naked. Her Wrangler blue jeans and a blue bandana were folded underneath her head. According to one detective, there was a size 10 footprint in the sand that belonged to someone who was heavyset and appeared to be running away from the scene. There were no signs of a struggle, but the area was covered in the woman's blood. Police believe she may have either known her attacker or been killed somewhere else and dumped there at that spot.
I do find it interesting that her body was placed so close to the sand roads where there was a lot of traffic. You would think you'd want to stay underneath the radar.
Yeah, but you're assuming that whoever did this didn't want her body to be discovered.
Good point.
It's an assumption. It's not a bad assumption, but it is an assumption. According to People magazine, Warren Tobias, a detective at the time who later became the Provincetown police chief, said she was definitely posed there. She was lying out on a beach towel as if she was sunbathing. Police Chief James Meade and Detective Warren Tobias took on the case initially and processed the crime scene. Later, Police Chief Warren Tobias took over the case in 1989 and worked on it until his retirement in 2009.
So it sounds like they definitely had seasoned people working on the case and people that knew the case very well because they were on it from the get-go.
This guy worked it for 35 years. That's a long time. The cause of death was immediately identified as a blow to the head. The left side of the woman's skull was crushed. Her body was severely mutilated. We mentioned it. Her hands were missing. They had been cut off at the wrists. Piles of pine needles lay where her hands should have been. Now, police theorized that the killer removed her hands so that she could not be identified by fingerprints.
And I don't think that's too far-fetched.
No, we've seen it in other cases. This is something that has been used by killers in the past. Her head was almost severed from her body with an instrument that was said, Gibbs, to be similar to, some type of military entrenching tool. Now, I don't know exactly what they mean when they say that. I take it to mean like one of those little foldable shovels.
Yeah.
But there could be something else that I'm missing.
Either way, it sounds brutal.
Well, no doubt. No murder weapon was found at the scene, and the woman's hands have never been found. Her body was decomposing by the time that she was found. Pathologists at the time blamed the rapid decomposition on the heat and dune flies. They estimated that she may have died anywhere from 10 days to 3 weeks before she was found.
That's a fairly large gap, right? I believe it is.
Yes, but it's also 1974. And I think we've come a long way scientifically in determining time of death. So, I don't know if some of that is blamed on the time that this murder occurred, or if it was just because of the external factors, the decomposition, the heat, the flies, that made it so tough to really kind of narrow that time of death window. The woman was estimated to be between 20 and 40 years old, approximately 5'6" and 140 to 150 pounds. She was described as having an athletic build. She had long auburn or reddish blonde hair tied up in a ponytail with a rubber hair tie. Her toenails were painted pink.
That's a fairly large gap, right? To say she was between 20 and 40 years old.
It is. And my thought is it's got to have something to do with the amount of decomposition.
Yeah.
Has to, because, even in 1974, you would think they would be able to get closer than 20 to 40. So my money is on the fact that this decomposition was pretty severe. And it would be if you're talking 10 days to 3 weeks out in the elements. It's July.
Right.
It's hot. You've got what were called dune flies, which obviously must have done something to the body or they wouldn't have made a big deal out of them.
So all that has an impact on defining an age.
Yeah, it had to have. The other thing was that some of her teeth had been pulled out, but the ones that remained showed that this woman had extensive dental work done. I think to investigators, the thought was that the killer was in the process of removing all of her teeth, but was interrupted. It was said that she had 7 gold crowns in her mouth. According to Warren Tobias, she had about $10,000 worth of crowns. And it was said that the dental work was done in what was called the New York style.
Well, that's interesting. I mean, that's a lot of crowns. That's some pretty bad teeth going on. But I thought it was interesting, too, that it appeared to investigators that the suspect was trying to remove the teeth, again, trying to hamper the efforts to identify the victim through dental records. I mean, we know at one point the suspect tried to remove the head from the body as well. And maybe when that wasn't successful, they decided to go for the teeth.
But all of that makes sense, right? Removing the wrists. Okay. If you remove the head and all of the teeth, that is going to make identification very, very tough.
Yeah.
And I would think, Gibbs, that removing some of the teeth would have an impact on identification because, okay, when you're trying to compare dental records, you don't have a full set of teeth to compare.
So how can you? And based on what the investigators on the scene said about a size 10 shoe and that it looked like they ran from the scene quickly, it kind of adds up.
As being interrupted?
Yeah.
Well, they also said they thought this person was heavy set.
Yeah.
And the only thought that ran through my mind was that they were somehow gauging that based on the depth of the prints. It must have been pretty deep.
Right.
So they were thinking this person was heavy. But $10,000 worth of gold crowns. And I'm assuming this was $10,000 in 1974.
And that's a lot.
One interesting fact about the case is that famous crime author Sandra Lee claims she was the one that found the body first, not Leslie Metcalf. Lee told Boston 25 News, "It was horrifying. There's no doubt about it. I looked into the brush and I saw at that point in my life the single most gruesome sight I had ever seen. She was naked. I could see an injury to the right side of her head and a little bit of a slice, which I believe they tried to cut her head off." Now, it is worth pointing out that the Provincetown PD said that it was the left side of her head that was injured, not the right.
I do find it interesting that two different individuals say they discovered the body. We know at least one of them reported it to the police.
Well, it's also interesting that one of them later turned out to be a famous crime author. The Provincetown police contacted dentists all over New York, Massachusetts, and large swaths of the country to seek dental records, but this didn't lead to an identification. No one in town knew who the Lady of the Dunes was. One woman from Maryland contacted the police because she suspected the victim was her sister, who had recently moved to Boston and then disappeared, but this lead didn't pan out. The Lady of the Dunes was buried in St. Peter's Cemetery in October of 1974. Her tombstone reads, "Unidentified female body found Race Point Dunes." The Lady of the Dunes was exhumed from her burial plot in 1980. The goal of the exhumation was to collect blood samples and examine the body, but nothing really came out of it. In 1987, a Canadian woman came forward to confess that she believed her father had strangled a woman while visiting Provincetown in the 1970s. Canadian authorities passed on the information, but when the Massachusetts police tried to speak to the woman, she moved away and they couldn't get in contact with her. So it's kind of interesting because it's a very specific tip.
Yeah.
She's basically tying her father to some type of murder in that exact town during that time frame.
Yeah, hello, this is such and such. My dad was telling me a story that he killed a woman. It's just a really bizarre thing to relay to the police, that I think my dad may have killed somebody.
And we don't have the information on it, but, you wonder where she got this information from. You just said her dad said her dad. I can't imagine it happened that way.
Right.
I know you were kind of saying it jokingly. Can't imagine a father sitting down his daughter and saying, "Hey, I just want to let you know that I did this back in the day."
And if she moved away, did she move away, or did maybe the dad heard that she was making some phone calls and maybe she moved away involuntarily?
Now you got the dad in on another murder.
I know.
True Crime All the Time Unsolved is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Let's face it, sometimes multitasking can be overwhelming. Like when your favorite podcast is playing and the person next to you is talking and your car fan is blasting, all while you're trying to find the perfect parking spot. But then again, sometimes multitasking is easy, like quoting with Progressive Insurance. They do the hard work of comparing rates so you can find a great rate that works for you, even if it's not with them. Give their nifty comparison tool a try, and you might just find getting the rate and coverage you deserve is easy. All you need to do is visit Progressive's website to get a quote with all the coverages you want, like comprehensive and collision coverage or personal injury protection. Then you'll see Progressive's direct rate, and their tool will provide options from other companies all lined up and ready to compare, so it's simple to choose the rate and coverages you like. Press play on comparing auto rates. Quote at Progressive.com to join the over 27 million drivers who trust Progressive. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. Comparison rates not available in all states or situations. Prices vary based on how you buy. Oh, Gibbs, you know I love that sound. It makes me smile. It's the sound of another sale on Shopify, the all-in-one commerce platform to start, run, and grow your business. Shopify gives entrepreneurs the resources once reserved for big business. So upstarts, startups, and established businesses alike can sell everywhere, synchronize online and in-person sales, and effortlessly stay informed. When we first started out trying to sell podcast merch, it was an uphill battle. But we started using Shopify probably about 4 years ago, and it's been a dream. They make everything so easy. Like mine, Shopify powers millions of businesses, from first sale to full scale. They make it easy to reach customers online across social networks with an ever-growing suite of channel integrations and apps, including Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Pinterest, and more. It's more than a store. Shopify grows with you. This is possibility powered by Shopify. Go to shopify.com/unsolved, all lowercase, for a free 14-day trial and get full access to Shopify's entire suite of features. Grow your business with Shopify today. Go to shopify.com/unsolved right now. Shopify.com/unsolved.
How much is your time worth? Whether you're a realtor, lawyer, accountant, or even a content creator, Stamps.com gives you the chance to focus your time on what you do best. Don't waste your time mailing letters or shipping packages. Stamps is there to help. Print stamps, shipping labels, or certified mail forms in seconds. Get up to 89% off USPS, UPS, and other carriers, and schedule free package pickups all from one place. Stamps.com also makes it easy to track shipments, manage contacts, and report on how much you send and spend. Over the last 28 years, more than 4 million customers have relied on Stamps.com to make their lives easier. Don't waste time worrying about being a postage expert or standing in line to drop off letters and packages. Let Stamps.com do what they do best so you can do what you do better. Go to Stamps.com/audio to sign up for a special offer. No contract, cancel anytime. That's Stamps.com/audio.
In 2000, inmate Haddon Clark, who was incarcerated on multiple murder charges, confessed to killing the Lady of the Dunes.
Oh, so this is over.
That's it. Solved.
Yeah.
We did a full episode on Haddon Clark. He was something.
Definitely something.
It was a very brutal episode. The problem with this confession was that investigators didn't trust it because Clark had been diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia, and he had made a lot of strange claims in the past. Additionally, there was no evidence linking him to the crime. Haddon Clark is serving consecutive 30-year sentences for murdering 6-year-old Michelle Dorr in 1986 and 23-year-old Laura Hodling. In 1992, Clark murdered and cannibalized Michelle in May 1986. She was his neighbor. Michelle's father was the initial suspect until Clark's arrest. Laura Hodling's mother had just given Clark a part-time gardening job in 1992, which gave him the opportunity to murder Laura. The police had begun to suspect Clark of Michelle's murder, which led to him being arrested within a few days of Laura's murder. He was arrested on November 6, 1992. Clark also confessed to the murder of 9-year-old Sarah Pryor. He made confessions to his cellmate, who he thought was Jesus.
Well, that's why you would make that confession.
Clark blamed his alternate personality, a woman named Kristen Bluefin, for the murders. In June 1993, Clark pleaded guilty to second-degree murder and got a 30-year sentence. In 1999, he was convicted of murdering Michelle Pryor and got another 30 years, plus 10 years for a past robbery charge. In 2000, Clark confessed that he killed a woman in 1974, cut off her hands, and left her in a grove of pines near the ocean.
So it sounds like our victim.
It does. Now, we don't know how many women were killed in 1974 near an ocean and also had their hands cut off.
Right.
I don't have that figure. Wellfleet Police Chief Richard Rosenthal told the Cape Cod Times, Clark is a very difficult person to speak to, and it takes someone with a lot of experience in dealing with him to separate out his fantasies from his truthful statements.
I think that's a very accurate description.
I think it is of him. I also think it's an accurate description of a lot of killers.
Yeah.
Just think about how many people we've profiled who have talked about murdering large numbers of people. They've told pretty vivid stories.
Right.
But a lot of times those stories either can't be corroborated or in some cases they're proven to be impossible.
Yeah.
Like they could not have committed a murder that they say they did.
Yeah, I know you circle back a lot to Henry Lucas.
Sure.
On that one. And I think these guys have a lot of time on their hands. They can read newspapers and see some of these unsolved crimes out there, maybe memorize some of the facts and try to confess to them if it helps their murder count.
Well, the first thing is these guys have nothing but time. They got plenty of time.
That's true.
That's one thing that they're not short on. If they have a life sentence, they have nothing but time. The other thing that I always think about is what else do they have to do? And what's the downside to them? Unless their confession would bring about a death penalty when they don't have one, what else is going to happen to them? They're going to get another life sentence. They're not getting out anyway. So I do think for some of these individuals, like you said, they are trying to up their count or maybe put themselves back in the news by confessing to a crime that happened because they had the spotlight.
Right.
When they were caught, when they were on trial, and then they're put in a cell and kind of probably to them forgotten about.
No longer special.
Right. So they're trying to get some of that back, maybe.
That notoriety?
Yes. I think there's an aspect there. The Lady of the Dunes was exhumed again on March 23rd, 2000, in another effort to identify her remains. There were two purposes to the exhumation: extracting DNA samples and using her skull to make a sculpture. The lab was unable to extract DNA from the samples they already had, so they had to re-exhume the body. Investigators took DNA samples to see if they could match the Lady of the Dunes to a woman who came forward as her potential mother. The body was buried again on March 24th. On December 16th, Provincetown investigators announced that the DNA samples that were sent to a lab in New Orleans did not match the woman who came forward. Investigators did construct a clay model of the woman's head and published age regression drawings in 2006. In 2009 and 2010, Police Chief Jeff Jaron worked with the NCMEC and other investigators to make a 3D color composite image of the Lady of the Dunes. They placed the skull in a CT scanner to help develop the images. The National Center for Missing and Exploited Children and the Smithsonian Institution released composite sketches of the Lady of the Dunes in May 2010. One sketch features her without freckles and the other sketch with freckles.
Well, we've seen these before, and they are and can be extremely helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. They can. I would say the helpfulness of the sketches depends on the accuracy. Somebody sees a sketch that is supposed to be, representative of this woman back in 1974, and they recognize someone that they knew back then that either went missing or something like that. It could spark something. And it is amazing what, some of these artists can do. We've seen them come very, very close to, looking like what the victim ultimately turns out to look like, or a perpetrator or whatever. But it's a tough job.
Oh, for sure.
And it's tough to get it right. In this circumstance, I would think it would be even tougher, because what do you have to work with? A skull. So you're doing some modeling, and you're putting in the pins. We've seen that on television shows before.
A lot of guesstimation.
Yeah, there's a lot of science, but there has to be some guesstimation, I would think, as well. A researcher named Bruce Jackson, who ran the undergraduate biotech and forensic DNA science program at Massachusetts Bay Community College, studied this case. After he died in 2016, the state medical examiner's office removed the biological materials he kept at the college. So he had quite a bit, Gibbs.
Yeah, you did.
It was said he had tissue samples of a leg, a left scapula, right scapula, some ribs, and even some hair samples. Apparently, this guy had a relationship with the Provincetown Police Department after the 2000 exhumation. So my thought, Gibbs, is that this guy had done quite a bit of research on this case, trying to figure out who this woman was. But after he died, I couldn't figure out where really anybody has kind of taken it on or picked up where he left off.
Yeah.
But as years passed, both investigators as well as the public developed theories on who the Lady of the Dunes was and what happened to her. And we said in the beginning, Detective Warren Tobias and Chief James Meads were the first to work the case. A few years after the murder, they started to believe that the Lady of the Dunes was a woman named Roy Jean Kessinger. Kessinger was a known drug dealer and bank robber. She resembled the victim and had escaped from the Plymouth County Correctional Facility in Massachusetts while awaiting trial in 1973. At the time, she was charged with assault with intent to murder. Apparently, someone slipped her a hacksaw blade that allowed her to make her way out of the window.
The old slip them a hacksaw blade, like bacon in a cake.
Bacon in a cake, man. It works every time.
Yeah.
She used sheets as a rope and descended into a getaway car.
Sounds like a movie.
It does, but we've also heard this happening, in a number of cases.
Yeah.
Now, these are usually cases back in the 60s, 70s, where, I don't know if correctional facilities, jails were quite as secure as maybe many of them are today. In 1998, state police sergeants located Rory's mother out west and persuaded her to submit a blood sample for comparison. In 2000, a lab compared the DNA, but it turned out that she was no match to the Lady of the Dunes. But it was a good lead. It was a good try.
Yeah, she kind of fit the age range.
Yeah, I think it was said she would have been 25 years old in 1974.
She had a similar build, athletic.
She did fit the physical description. But what I found interesting is that this woman's escape, Rory's escape and disappearance, remain unsolved.
Yeah, it's interesting that they never found out what happened to her. So it's a potential good one for us to do on TCAT.
Hey, no, it sounds like it. I don't know how much information there would actually be, on this person, but kind of fascinating when you think about it. She fits the Lady of the Dunes in a lot of ways. Age, description.
Yeah.
Just happens that she escaped in 1973 before the Lady of the Dunes was found dead. And the fact that they have no idea what happened to her.
So maybe after she escaped, she wanted her body to be found. She found somebody with a similar build, similar age range. Thought, you know what? Let me remove the hands so they can't match the fingerprints. And if I can remove the head and the teeth, they won't be able to identify the body. Because at that time, they didn't have any knowledge of DNA. And if that works, they're not going to come after her, searching for her, because they're going to assume that that's probably her body that was found on the beach.
It's a good theory. And I have no way to disprove it. It actually could have happened.
Yeah.
So that could possibly explain what happened to the Lady of the Dunes. Doesn't change the fact that she's still unidentified.
That's true.
Some people believe that notorious South Boston mobster James Whitey Bulger murdered the Lady of the Dunes. The Provincetown Banner was the first to suggest the link between Bulger and the Lady of the Dunes. Whitey Bulger served time in federal prison in the 50s and 60s for bank robbery. He returned to Boston and built up an organized crime empire with partner Stephen Flemmi. They served as FBI informants starting in the mid-70s. Bulger and Flemmi gave information about rival mobsters in exchange for protection from prosecution. An agent tipped Bulger off that he would be arrested for racketeering, and he fled the state in December 1994 with his companion Catherine. He was one of the FBI's 10 most wanted fugitives. And then on June 22nd, 2011, Bulger was arrested in Santa Monica, California at the age of 81. In 2013, Bulger was convicted of 31 counts, including participating in 11 murders. He was sentenced to 2 life terms plus 5 years. He died in prison on October 30th, 2018.
And no doubt about it, he was a bad individual.
Oh, he was. He was. I watched the movie with Johnny Depp a few weeks back. There's no doubt that Whitey Bulger killed some people. And I'm not sure there was a lot of hesitation on his part.
I don't think so. I don't think he lost any sleep at night.
Now, where the Lady of the Dunes comes in is that witnesses claim that in July 1974, they saw Bulger with a woman who matched the description of the Lady of the Dunes. Lead detective at the time, Meredith Loeber, told the Provincetown Banner, "It's not a secret. It never was a secret that James Whitey Bulger spent time in Provincetown. What our hope is that with his capture and imprisonment and his age, that someone will be able to finally come forward." So obviously she made that statement before he died. It's a good thought that, okay, now he's in prison. He's 80 some years old. People may no longer be afraid to come forward and tell police what they know. Now, obviously we know that never happened.
Right.
Because nobody came forward. Nobody knows who this woman is. But what is interesting is that Bulger had removed the teeth of some of his female victims, and he was known for mutilating victims. Now, he was never considered a formal suspect, but the police invited him to come forward and reveal anything he knew. Obviously, he never did. In 1981, Whitey Bulger allegedly murdered a woman in the same manner as the Lady of the Dunes. Bulger allegedly orchestrated the murder of Flemmi's girlfriend, Deborah Davis. He was never convicted of this murder, but most people involved in the case believed he was guilty. Bulger thought Deborah knew too much about him and Flemmi's relationship with the FBI. So he ordered Flemmi to bring Deborah to an empty house in South Boston. He allegedly told Flemmi, "I'll take care of it." According to NBC, Bulger strangled Deborah with his bare hands as he dragged her down a flight of stairs. He made Flemmi dig the grave. Like the Lady of the Dunes, Debbie Davis was also dismembered. Her hands were cut off and her teeth were pulled. Now, there is another Sandra Lee tie-in. According to Boston 25 News, she claimed her stepfather was an associate of Whitey Bulger's. She grew up seeing Bulger in Provincetown. She said, "He was very recognizable to me as Uncle Jimmy. He was very nice to me. He spent a lot of time on the waterfront, both in Boston and in Provincetown. I think we both know why. They are giant drug ports." Sandra Lee believes that Whitey Bulger killed the Lady of the Dunes. She told Boston 25 News, "It fits the mold of Whitey, giving orders to kill somebody who knew too much and said too much, because fingerprinting was basically the way people were identified back then. They wanted to do away with the hands, and that they did. The hands were never found. And the teeth. Was she missing teeth? They attempted to pull some teeth. They were successful in pulling some teeth."
And maybe, like you said, they pulled enough teeth to
make it very, very difficult to use dental records to match her teeth.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's possible. Cerebral is an online mental health service that offers prescription medication, counseling, and therapy for anxiety, depression, ADHD, insomnia, and more. Cerebral is one of the few services that provides prescription medication online through a licensed provider and ships that medication straight to your door so that you can skip the pharmacy lines. Cerebral has an amazing mobile app, which makes it like having your personal care team wherever you are. You can connect with your counselor and therapist on your own schedule, through your laptop, or through the Cerebral mobile app. And because you can do those sessions on a laptop or your phone, you can always find an area at home where you're most comfortable. They offer affordable treatments that are about 1/3 the price of traditional therapy. And for listeners of this program, you can receive 65% off your first month of medication management and care counseling at cerebral.com/unsolved. Go to cerebral.com/unsolved for 65% off your first month. That's just a total of $30 to get started. Join Cerebral today on their mission to make quality mental health care accessible and affordable for all. Hey folks, do you have a bunch of credit card debt that you've been working years to try to pay down? Well, a personal loan could be your solution. Loans usually come with fixed monthly payments, making them a simple way to help pay off your credit cards. Plus, loans usually have lower interest rates than credit cards do, and Credit Karma can help you find the best option for you. Maybe you have a big expense coming up. Well, don't put car repairs or large medical bills on a high-interest credit card. Credit Karma uses your credit data to find loan offers that are personalized to you so you can have a better idea of what loan amount you can get approved for. Credit Karma will even show you your chances of approval, so you can choose between loan offers that you're more likely to get approved for and apply with more confidence. Comparing loan offers on Credit Karma is 100% free, won't affect your credit scores, and could save you money. Credit Karma. Apply with more confidence today. When you're ready to apply, head to creditkarma.com/loan offers to see personalized offers. Go to creditkarma.com/loan offers to find the loan for you. That's creditkarma.com/loan offers. Now, one of the most popular theories is that the 1975 movie Jaws holds the key to identifying the missing woman. This theory was proposed by author Joe Hill, whose real name is Joe Hillstrom King. Gibbs, he's the son of famous author Stephen King. He first wrote about it in an August 2015 Tumblr post, beginning with, "Put on your tinfoil hats and buckle up for a ride to Crazy Town, folks." Hill believed that the Lady of the Dunes appeared as an extra in the movie. At 54 minutes and 2 seconds, during a crowd sequence set on July 4th, one extra stands in front of the camera among the crowd. She's a young, average-sized woman with brunette hair and a blue bandana who looks similar to the composite sketch.
Seems like you're really reaching for something.
Yeah, I agree, but what else can you do? You know, when you're coming up with some of these theories, I do feel like sometimes you got to reach out there. Now, because it's Jaws, it's a movie, it's a well-known movie.
Huge, yeah.
I can see why he's saying put on your tinfoil hats. This is going to sound bizarre.
Right.
According to Yahoo.com, Joe Hill wrote, "What if the young murder victim no one has ever been able to identify has been seen by hundreds of millions of people in a beloved summer classic, and they didn't even know they were looking at her? What if the ghost of the Lady of the Dunes haunts Jaws?" Hill did acknowledge a few issues with his theory. First, the woman was not wearing the same type of jeans found with the body. Hill wrote, "I don't believe she's wearing Wrangler jeans, but presumably a girl owns more than one pair of jeans." Second, 6 other women wore blue bandanas in that section of the film. Third, in the 1970s, extras were not tracked by production companies like they are today. The Jaws film team may not have kept a record of every extra. The casting director has passed away and can no longer provide any additional information on extras. According to the Washington Post, Jaws was filmed within 100 miles of where the body was found, and filming occurred shortly before the woman's death. Hill thinks it's possible that if she spent the summer on Cape Cod, she would have gone to Martha's Vineyard to explore, especially if she knew a movie was being filmed there.
Yeah, I think if she was in the area, if anybody was in that area at that time, they probably did head over to where the movie was being made to try to, see what was going on, maybe get a glimpse at a movie star, maybe be an extra.
According to NME.com, Hill said, I've heard it said that everyone who was out on Cape Cod in the summer of 1974 appears in the movie Jaws. I'm sure that's an exaggeration, but there's a nugget of truth. People knew there were movie stars on Martha's Vineyard. The possibility that a person would make a stop on the island and appear in the movie is not unreasonable. Hill spoke to an FBI agent about the theory. The agent told him, it might be worth going forward with your theory. There might be something in it. Odder ideas have cracked colder cases. And I actually like that saying.
Yeah.
Because is it kind of out there? Sure. Does it hurt? I don't think it does.
No, not at this point.
It's not like, okay, this theory is going to throw the investigation off, or they're only going to focus on this theory. Now, what I will say is that I don't know how it gets us closer to identifying the Lady of the Dunes. Well, and especially figuring out who may have killed her.
Right.
I guess the identification part is that if somebody knew somebody who had gone out there and maybe telephoned them and said, hey, guess what? I was an extra in this movie that's going to come out, or something like that.
Yeah, maybe there's a way to connect it all together.
And then they were never heard from again.
Yeah.
That there could be something there.
I mean, look, I was an extra in a lot of movies.
You're extra, all right. You're extra something. The Lady of the Dunes case is currently under the direction of Detective Meredith Lober of the Provincetown Police Department. She joined the Provincetown Police in 2011 after being a public defender in Boston. Part of the reason why she joined the police department there was because of this case. In 2014, she told the Boston Globe, she's always some part of my day. Some murders are never solved. I refuse to believe this is one of them. She told People magazine about getting leads. Anything that generates interest is always good. We follow any lead and any theory we will follow up on. If any of your readers have any information, I follow up on everything.
That's perfect, right? You want to keep the case out there. You don't want it to go quiet, right? You want to keep it out there, keep it in front of people. So maybe it generates some leads. Maybe the leads aren't that great. Maybe the leads seem a little far-fetched. But like she said, they're going to look at any lead and follow it through to see if it develops to anything.
I'll go back to what that FBI agent said. Very cold cases have been cracked, and I'm paraphrasing here, on what a lot of people would have called a far-fetched tip, lead, theory, whatever you want to call it. In 2019, prosecutors examined the new method of DNA analysis to try to solve the case. They sought out a special lab to get a new DNA profile. DAs in Massachusetts with expertise in familial DNA met in May 2019 to discuss this case. Their plan was to combine the Lady of the Dunes DNA profile with genealogy family tree building to generate leads. So, Gibbs, this is something over the last 2, 3, 4 years that has exploded.
Big time.
In the world of true crime. It's still a relatively new technology, but it has been used to solve a number of cases. Probably the biggest being the Golden State Killer case. Now, there are quite a few laws that limit the use of familial DNA to violent homicides or cases where all other leads have been exhausted. Special labs examine a broad range of genetic indicators to produce a genetic profile called an SNPS report. This is similar to the profile created by companies like Ancestry, 23andMe, and Family Tree DNA. And this is something that Morph and I have talked a lot about on criminology. Heck, we did a whole season on cases solved using this type of technology.
Pretty detailed. Private
companies don't share their database, right? This has been something that a lot of people have been worried about. But customers can upload their genetic profiles to public databases like GEDmatch if they want to. And this allows anyone, including investigators, to find them and connect them to a family member accused of a crime or a victim of a crime.
So it could be a good thing.
It could be a good thing. I think a lot of people are leery for good reason. Number one, do you really want to know that your grandfather was a serial killer? I personally do not.
No.
But, I think every individual, has to make that choice for themselves.
Right.
But it is fascinating to me, right? You have a genealogist building a family tree, helping law enforcement identify a suspect or, a victim, their relatives, and then kind of working it down to a specific person.
I mean, when you think about it, how far science has come.
It's amazing.
It really is.
And as we talk about a lot, I think those advancements have to worry a lot of bad guys, or at least people who have done bad things in their past. Now, the flip side of that is that as these cases get older and older, it's more likely that the killer has already passed away without ever being brought to justice. But like you said, the Provincetown PD seems like they're keeping this case very active. They're working it. They're keeping it in the media. It's been said that the police have used ground penetrating radar, DNA analysis, dental records, a plaster facial reconstruction, and even a psychic to try to get a break in the case. But it could be the familial DNA technology that's exactly what is needed to finally identify the Lady of the Dunes.
It sounds like they're using all available resources to try to solve this case.
It's just not an easy one to solve, right? Some cases you have more to work with than others. But as we wrap up this case, Gibbs, we talked about a number of high-profile killers. You got to consider Whitey Bulger. Could he have murdered the Lady of the Dunes? Now, if he did, why not just admit to it? When he was given life in prison, my assumption is it wasn't going to add anything, or, he knew when he went, he was going to die in prison.
Right. So why not claim it if you actually did it?
There could be a reason for a guy like Whitey Bulger to not want to admit that. We talked about Haddon Clark. I don't believe most in law enforcement think he's the murderer, but can he be completely eliminated as a suspect? I don't know that either. Probably not. If authorities could ever identify the Lady of the Dunes using DNA, other techniques, obviously then the chances of solving her murder would greatly increase. We talked about it earlier in the episode. How hard is it to find a killer when you don't even know who the victim truly is?
Yeah.
You don't know who this person's friends were, who their boyfriend or husband was. Where do you start? The identification, to me, seems so crucial in solving a murder case.
Yeah, I think the avenues really open up when you know who you're dealing with.
Yeah, because I don't know what the statistics are, but we've heard it before, right? Most murders are committed by people who are familiar with the victim in some way.
Right.
Well, you don't know who's familiar with this victim because you don't know who the victim is.
Yeah.
I do think the best chance, as I see it right now, is some type of forensic genetic genealogy. I don't know how far down the road they've gotten on that, but they have DNA. We talked about that. So there's got to be something they can do in that arena.
Yeah, I think eventually we're going to get some answers to this.
I think at the very least, she will be identified at some point in time. Yeah. Now, will they ever be able to figure out who killed her? I think that might prove to be tough, even after she's identified, because so many years have passed.
Right.
But we never say never. But that's it for our case on the Lady of the Dunes. We've got some voicemails, Gibbs. You want to check those out?
Let's hear them.
Hello there. This is a very long-time listener, and I actually got my husband to start listening, and he understands now that my browser would kind of give me away if I actually let him, actually try to bump him off. So he's a little more understanding now of my overall theory here on life. Anywho, he actually is listening to you and Gibby, and he really enjoys you. And this is the first podcast I've gotten him to listen to. And to be honest with you, we're old as fuck, and it's a good thing for him to listen to a podcast and not, it's the first one he's ever listened to, and he actually likes it. So this is a good thing. So, I love both of you all. Don't ask me to, to actually indicate which one I like better, because you're both Mikes and you're awesome. So I won't do that. But just let you know that you have brought on a husband who was skeptical that that his wife listened to all these true crime podcasts to bump him off, and that's not the case. So he's breathing a little more easy, and he actually loves your podcast. So God bless you all, and have a good day. Bye-bye.
So what do we always say, Gibbs? The couple that listens to true crime together stays together?
We do.
So two things. First of all, now he knows what to look for.
That's right.
So he's arming himself with some knowledge. Second of all, if anyone ever check my browser history, I just go straight to jail. Do not collect $200. It's like, how long does it take chloroform to work? How long does it take to manually strangle someone?
Yeah.
I've got a lot of strange searches.
That's why I get a new laptop every 30 days.
Whether you need one or not.
Yeah.
Hey, Mike and Gibby, this is Ron calling from Ohio, from Springfield, Ohio, as a matter of fact. I listen to your podcast. Your podcast is great. One of the top three that I listen to, and you're in the top three. I would love to hear your guys' take on the Rogan family murders that happened in Springfield, Ohio, back in 1987. Team Gibby all the way. Just like Gibby, I hate seafood, and Aquaman is the best. So keep your own time ticking and keep doing what you're doing.
All right. So those are some hot takes, but I'm going to ease up on Ron because he's very close to us.
Very close.
He's in our neck of the woods.
Yeah.
But no, that's not a case that I'm familiar with. So
check it out.
Yeah, we're going to have to look that one up. Make sure it's on the list.
Hi, Mike and Gibby. It's Jackie Alexander from Haydenville again, Ohio. It's called Lancaster. Lancaster is in Pennsylvania. It's just Lancaster, guys. Have a great day. Keep your own time ticking.
I told you so.
You never did. Can we not fix this? If it's spelled the same, I don't care what state you're in. Can we just say it the same way?
There you go.
Lancaster, Lancaster, Worcestershire.
Worcestershire.
Hi, this is Cindy from San Luis Obispo, California. I am down to episode 120, going backwards on Unsolved. I've already listened to all of your Solved, and I've decided, Gibby, who you remind me of. With all your careers and talents and education and knowledge, you are Barbie. You are Barbie the doll, because she's had all these occupations. She's been an astronaut, a pilot, a teacher. You name it, Barbie has done it, and that is you, Gibby. Love you lots. Bye-bye.
Did you just call me Barbie?
She did. And I knew as soon as I heard that, I'm like, I'm definitely playing this one. It cracked me up. My first thought was, he's more like Ken. Kind of, nothing going on down there. Smooth.
Oh, wow. Wow, man.
No, I'm just joking. But that cracked me up.
I think
because Barbie's done everything.
Yeah.
I mean, I think she's been on the moon, underwater. She's got a mobile home or a trailer thing. That's
true. But it took her all of TCAT and half of TCAT Unsolved to
figure it out, or to get the courage up to send the voicemail.
That's probably what it is.
Either way, it made me laugh.
Yeah, well, I'll take that. I could be Barbie for a moment.
All right, so that is it for another episode of True Crime All the Time Unsolved. So for Mike
and Gibby,
stay safe and keep your own time ticking.
All this month, stream the funniest films for free on Pluto TV. Watch comedy classics like Anchorman, The Legend of Ron Burgundy, and Mean Girls. Or drop in for a Tyler Perry marathon with a Medea family funeral and Medea's witness protection. Pluto TV also has hundreds of channels and thousands of movies and TV shows like Get Shorty, Be Cool, Key and Peele, Comedy in Color, and more. And no contracts, no subscriptions, no fees, no joke. So download the Pluto TV app on your favorite streaming device and start laughing today. Pluto TV, drop in, watch free.